All right, today we are tackling something that I think everyone struggles with. How to stop feeling like you're wasting time and actually start learning faster and more effectively. We're going to break down the actual science of how your brain works so you can master pretty much any subject you want. Let's do it.
So, does this sound familiar? You've got your books open, you're highlighting, you're rereading pages, you put in hours of work. But then, the next day, when you try to remember it, it's just gone. Poof. Look, you're not alone, and I promise you it's not because you're a bad student. The problem isn't you, it's probably your method.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest, most annoying monster in the room for pretty much all of us: procrastination. We usually beat ourselves up about it, right? We think it's about being lazy or just bad at managing time. But what if I told you the real reason is something, well, a lot deeper than that?
Let's just follow this chain of thought for a second. It all starts with that feeling of being totally overwhelmed. But why do we feel that way? Usually it's because the first step just seems way too big and intimidating. Okay, and why is that? Because deep down we're not sure if we're even doing it right. And that leads to this fear of producing something that's just mediocre. And here's the real kicker. That all boils down to this deeply ingrained fear that our work is a direct reflection of our own self-worth.
So here it is, the big reveal. Procrastination isn't a character flaw. It's not laziness. It's actually a defense mechanism. It's our brain trying to protect us from the fear of being judged by others or even by ourselves. And once you understand that, everything changes. You can stop looking for some magic productivity hack and start dealing with the real issue. Now that we know why we put things off, let's get into the how of learning better. And honestly, this next idea, it is an absolute game changer. It turns out your brain basically has two totally different operating modes, and learning how to switch between them, well, that's the secret key to learning just about anything. First up, we've got the focused mode. I want you to picture a pinball machine. When you're in this mode, the pinball, that's your thought, is just bouncing around like crazy between bumpers that are really close together. It's moving along old, familiar pathways in your brain. This mode is awesome for digging in and working on stuff you already kind of know how to do, like solving a specific type of math problem. But then there's its complete opposite, the diffuse mode. Now imagine those pinball bumpers are spread way out all over the machine. The ball can just roll around freely, making these big, sweeping, unexpected connections. This is your brain's big picture mode. It's where creativity happens. It's what's happening when you finally get that aha moment while you're taking a shower or out for a walk. So let's put them side by side. Focus mode is for intense, heads-down work using what you already know. Diffuse mode is relaxed. It's for connecting new ideas and creative problem solving. Now, here's the most important part. One is not better than the other. You need both. But you can't be in both modes at the same time. So the art of learning is really the art of switching between them effectively. And this explains perfectly why a famous technique like the Pomodoro works so well. It's not just about scheduling breaks. It's a system designed specifically to force you to switch between these two modes. You do 25 minutes of super intense, focused work. Then, for that 5-minute break, you get up, you stretch, you stare out the window. You are intentionally activating your diffuse mode. You're giving your brain the space it needs to make those new connections in the background. Okay, so we get it. We need to switch between focused and diffuse. But what should we actually be doing during those focused sessions? Well, this is where we need to make a huge shift. From passive learning, just highlighting and rereading, to active strategies that actually forge long-lasting memories. This quote from Jim Quick just nails it. We think learning is about consumption, about just shoving more information into our heads, but real learning is an active process. It's not about putting information in, it's about pulling information out. It's about creating something with it. So here's a super powerful active technique called interleaving. Look at the top image. That's blocked practice. You just drill one thing over and over. Now look at the bottom. That's interleaving. You mix it all up. You do a problem from chapter 1, then one from chapter 3, then one from chapter 2. It feels harder and it feels messier, but that's a good thing. It forces your brain to learn which strategy to use instead of just mindlessly repeating one. That's how you build real flexibility.
So here's your new toolkit. Instead of just rereading, quiz yourself. Don't look at the answers. Try to summarize a whole chapter from memory without looking at the book. Use flashcards. They're amazing for forcing your brain to retrieve facts. And my personal favorite, try to explain a concept to someone else. They call it the Feynman technique, because if you can't explain it simply, you don't really get it yet. And of course, do the practice problems. All of these force your brain to pull information out, and that's what makes the memories strong.
Speaking of powerful techniques, let's talk about one that's been around for thousands of years. Seriously, it sounds like something from a fantasy book, but the memory palace is a real and ridiculously effective way to memorize tons of information.
Here's how you do it. First, pick a place you know like the back of your hand, your childhood home, your apartment, whatever. Then, for every single thing you need to remember, you create a totally bizarre, unforgettable mental image for it. You then place each of those crazy images at a specific spot in your mental location. When you need to remember everything, you just take a walk through your palace in your mind and see all the items. And I mean it. The crazier the image, the better. Here's a great example for remembering the French word for grapefruit, pamplemousse. Just imagine a giant moose furiously pumping up an inflatable grapefruit. Pumpermousse, pamplemousse. It's so silly and so visual that I bet you're never going to forget it now. So, we've got the mindset to beat procrastination, we understand our brain's two modes, and we have a bunch of active techniques. The final step is to put it all together. It's about taking charge and becoming a scientist of your own learning through simple self-reflection. I absolutely love this quote from Barbara Oakley. Stop thinking of yourself as just a student. Start thinking of yourself as a scientist. Your learning is the experiment. You get to test things out, see what works for you, analyze the results, and then improve your process. You are in the driver's seat.
And here's your daily lab report. It's super simple. At the end of a study session, just ask yourself these 4 questions. What did I learn? How did it feel? What could I do better next time? And what actually worked really well? This simple act of thinking about your own thinking, it's called metacognition, is what separates the good learners from the great ones.
So we've covered the real reason you procrastinate, the 2 secret modes your brain uses to learn, and a whole toolkit of active strategies to make knowledge stick for good. You now have the blueprints to become an expert learner. So the only question left is, what are you going to master first?